Sonic & Knuckles' soundtrack is full of minor-keyed danger and adversity, which makes Sky Sanctuary shine as the major-keyed beacon that helps turn the tide. This is just after you confront the rival that foiled you time and time again across 2 cartridges. But now the truth has emerged and he joins your squad, the genesis of a timeless trio. It's cause for an encouraging battle cry, with Sky Sanctuary as the track where the team facing insurmountable odds suddenly has a fighting chance. The chords in this song are sky high. If you consider the notes in the scale, you can build a chord on each of them, but Sky Sanctuary exclusively sticks to chords at 5 and above, so we really are up in the clouds. There's only one other Sonic & Knuckles zone that sticks to chords 5 and above, and it too is way up in the stratosphere. This doesn't exactly provide a wide open meadow to generate chordal motion. For example, if we look at the 6 chord, a 5th below it is dead space, which is also true of the 5 chord. But you can still pull off an awesome descent, and Sky Sanctuary uses chromaticism to get even more out of this limited area. The bass moves down 1, flat 7, 6, flat 6. Not only does this include some chromatic descent, but these tones serve as the root of each chord. This is the same chord progression from Green Hill, bringing things full circle with Mechasonic's resurrection of the swinging ball boss. But why did the 2 songs' progressions sound so different if they're made of the same chords? Well, the bass is partly responsible. Sky Sanctuary's bass moves in a straightforward downward motion. Green Hill does have the same root note at the start of each chord, but these active curves obscure what would otherwise be an obvious descent, with the flat 6 appearing an octave higher than it otherwise would have if the descent continued downward. These curvatures beautifully complement the GHZ's rolling hills. There's yet another series-defining sequence that prominently features this chord sequence, Sonic CD's intro theme, You Can Do Anything. During the Green Hill chords, there's this supporting melody that repeats the same way throughout the entire chord sequence. Usually with things like this, you'd adapt the notes to fit the tones of each chord, like in the Dynamite Heady song, Paradise. But in Sky Sanctuary, we see the pattern of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3 that repeats regardless of the chords underneath. These lower notes descend with the bass, but the upper portion holds its place. Sonic has to look danger right in the eye and hold his poker face no matter what the perils. And the percussion keeps the beat moving with militant seriousness, featuring the type of drum beats that topped the charts in 1776. These dignified kick and snare patterns remind you that an entire civilization's at stake. Bizarrely, the prototype version of this zone's music has the roles of the kick and snares reversed. Now generally, this type of swap isn't a thing you can just do without severely altering the flow of the song. For example, watch what happens if you invert the kick and snare on Ice Cap's drums. Prototype Sky Sanctuary doesn't fall apart with this kick and snare switch, but it is cool to see the way the drums were refined between the prototype and final versions. And in the lead instrument, one of Sky Sanctuary's distinct melodic signatures is the octave hop, an ideal representation of this level's emphasis on verticality. because our main options for melodic movement are steps, skips, and leaps, but even bigger is movement by octave. Recall that the scale repeats throughout the keyboard, so if we start on the 1 and walk up the scale, we eventually arrive at the 1 again. You can also think of it as the 8 when useful, and hey, that's why they call it an octave. But see how they're both the same note in a way? Fun fact, if you pick any note and jump up an octave, the sound wave frequency in hertz is exactly doubled, and so on. The first octave hop in Sky Sanctuary occurs during the intro, during the 5 chord, with the bass's octave hop on the 5 boosting the trio skyward up the teleporter. Pretty soon the lead melody jumps by octave too, as we make our way up the game's most vertical level. This is when the soundtrack is at its most Star Wars, with parallels to that theme's similar use of an octave, following a hopeful 4-3. Though it's not so much an octave hop as it is an octave swap, going to the octave 1 immediately in place of the foundation 1. And as the Death Star Death Egg flees toward space, this high-pitched supporting instrument jumps up not just 1 octave but 2, requiring the use of 5 ledger lines. And the math checks out regarding the doubling frequencies. With all this encouraging Star Wars-osity, this is the ultimate level to feature the Mario cadence, rising from Robotnik's betrayal in Hidden Palace to rally toward the skies and make things right for good. For the song's loop, Sky Sanctuary uses the Mario cadence to lead us toward the 1, but pulls the ground out from underneath to send us to the 5 chord instead. Sky Sanctuary would go on to appear in quite a few Sonic games. Sonic Generations in particular includes an interesting take on the track's signature octave hop, choosing instead to blunt the impact, making us feel like we're staying at the same 1 instead of soaring an octave skyward. Generations is a good game, but it doesn't exactly reach new heights of innovation, opting instead to wax nostalgic with moderate to severe member berries. But the original Sky Sanctuary soars past the ozone and beyond. At the climax, the song gives an octave boost not just to the 1, but to the 4-3-1 Star Wars portion. The last 2 measures use the rhythmic shape of Green Hill's rolling curves, straining upward to the song's highest melodic pitch as Sonic makes the final leap up toward the Death Egg. Sky Sanctuary's music is replete with triumph and pride, but don't throw the confetti just yet, because even the strongest teamwork only gets you so far when you beeline it right into the jaws of evil, and the anthem of industrial venom is about to take over. The Death Egg is a gauntlet of danger, and the percussion ratchets up the peril with its use of the kick drum. It's that drum on the ground that you play with a foot pedal. In a traditional drum beat, you put kick drums on beats 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But Death Egg drills the kick drum a bit more frequently than that. A beat this rapid is difficult to perform without the help of a double kick drum. 2 times the foot pedals means 2x the kick drum hits at your disposal, which you can even get to 4x through the use of the heel-toe technique, where you get 2 hits out of a single foot push by protruding your heel and toes separately. Which is cool because now you have 4 different limbs acting in concert to create the beat. This kick drum setup is a staple of death metal music, so it's a logical choice for the music of this very deathy egg. And considering the Death Egg's intimidating danger, it's somewhat surprising to see it feature the Dorian scale, which is not exactly the most intimidating set of notes on the market. To get the Dorian sound, you just take the normal minor scale, then bump up this note from a 6 to a sharp 6. This comes in handy when composing for moments that you want to be serious, but not too depressing or daunting. Marble Garden composer Miyoko Takaoka uses the Dorian scale in the Terranigma soundtrack, creating the kind of energy suitable for a secret ancient temple, or perhaps while getting an important revelation in the story, like in the track Unforeseen Occurrence. Death Egg uses the major 6th too, but in a way that doesn't emphasize the brightness that the Dorian sound is capable of. And remember Desert Palace's notes shaped like clusters of grapes, which were then nudged to the side so that it didn't fit neatly in the measure? Death Egg has a similar thing, but this time the notes are cleanly presented, lined up in one measure. Because this level isn't the place for a loose rhythmic style, and these lined up clusters are as tight and organized as Robotnik's arsenal. And even though the last cluster is built on that Dorian major 6th note, it still avoids sounding too uplifting. So if this is the final zone, why bring in a touch of optimism in this major 6th note? Well, one caveat is that it's technically not the last zone, because the true final zone goes all in on the crunchy aggression. That said, there is precedent in the Sonic series where the last zone's music doesn't always have to be frightening or dangerous. Scrap Brain's Section A is bleak and hostile like we'd expect, but Section B is decidedly major, using not just the major 6th but even the major 3rd as well. Conspiracy theorists claim that Scrap Brain has this brighter section because it wasn't always intended to be the last zone, because the Game Gear version of Sonic 1 has an additional final sky-based level after Scrap Brain, fueling speculation that the Genesis version had a similar stage cut from the final release. But this wouldn't apply to Sonic 2's Death Egg Zone, a bizarrely major song that goes out of its way to include its ballerina movements on the major scale, featuring the major 3rd, 6th, and even 7th. And you probably wouldn't recognize what these melodies are from if you heard them out of context. But this is part of Sonic 3's Death Egg, played on this crunchy technological instrument. Which is an awesome representation of the electronic mechanisms and drones that line the Death Egg's massive walls. And it's cool that all 3 of these technical chirps manage to include the major 6th note. Death Egg sees the return of a crunchy, industrial bassline, the kind of thing right at home on a 9 Inch Nails album. And check out this really quick flat 2, aka the minor 2nd, that note that we expected to find in the Perils of Sandopolis but didn't. Well, here it is in Death Egg. The composer could have used the regular 2, generating the despair that the minor scale is good for. Here's how it would have sounded with the pitch shifted to the normal 2. But Death Egg converts it to a flat 2 for a more gritty, industrial punch. That flat 2 is a fairly quick blip, but it plants seeds for later in the song. Section B executes a key change by starting a Mario cadence on that very same flat 2, which becomes the flat 6 of the new key. And the flat 6, flat 7 buildup is propelled by these rapid-fire pistons that churn furiously as the gravity reversal machine is whirring up to send Sonic to the ceiling. For the resolution of this momentum, keep in mind that literally the only difference between a Mario cadence and an Eggman cadence is whether that last chord has the major 3 as opposed to the minor 3. Thing is, instead of resolving it right after the 2 setup chords, it's delayed by this bass solo that doesn't use the 3 at all, as if Sonic and Robotnik are fighting on this platform in space one last time, like at the end of GoldenEye. It's only in the follow-up measure that Sonic answers with the hopeful major 3. The next Mario cadence that brings us to the end of the song's loop ends with a 1-7-5 that's not so much a triumph as it is a dead end. If you only own Sonic and Knuckles, you can't save your game, so there's a lot on the line if you make it to Death Egg. Azure Lake and the Battery gave us fair warning. Now this zone is Robotnik Unleashed. The music covers the floating island with its unforgiving edge, and only fleeting glimpses of light at the end of the tunnel.
But one person's musical perspective can only go so far. So you know what I noticed about Death Egg's music when I was young? Once you make it past this boss, the Act 2 remix has some pretty telling adjustments. All that death metal kick drum stuff is now gone. Look at this simple kick snare drum line. And the tempo is faster, by about 5 beats per minute. Now Sonic's quicker and more confident because this steadier beat helps him find his footing. So the way Act 2's music pulls its punches like this just shows you that Death Egg isn't that hard of a zone. These badniks are just an easier version of the Sandopolis ones because their attack range is way more limited. The gravity reversal parts are fun and not particularly stressful at all. And look at these light roller coasters. They give you speed, spectacle, and take you where you need to go. It's everything a kid could want in 1994. No wonder the song uses the Dorian 6th. That note is literally borrowed from Major, so we're basically popping the champagne before even getting to the final boss. But make no mistake, in the first game, Ivo had the upper hand. Look at this, 3 conveyor belt saws in a row. Absolutely incredible. So maybe Sonic 3's fun Death Egg is an apology from the devs for cutting Death Egg from Sonic 2, leaving us with just that tease of a corridor. It's not even big enough to play shuffleboard. But Sonic 3's Death Egg is so massive that the background doesn't even move. And sure, there are definitely some danger gauntlets. Look at this, dodging bullets on an ascending conveyor belt surrounded by spikes. Then try doing it with the gravity reversed in Act 2. But the music reminds you that despite this massive arsenal, it's actually Robotnik and the Death Egg that have reason to be afraid of Sonic, with or without the Chaos Emeralds.